Something big is brewing for the Toronto Maple Leafs as more and more reports are circulating surrounding Nick Robertson's future in Toronto, and a trade at this point seems imminent. So, to break down those recent reports as well as discuss some more targets that the Toronto Maple Leafs seem to be perusing and around the trade and free agent market as well. So, to break all it down on the stream, welcome in everybody to our weekly stream. It is Wednesday. Darius, it's been a wild week in Leafs land. A lot of Nick Robertson stuff, even some Mitch Marner stuff has gone down, but it started to cool down a little bit now, and obviously the poll is going whether or not the Leafs will make a trade for somebody. That is the question, or whether or not they'll trade Nick Robertson. I'm going to break all of it down. There's also, like Fazilla is saying here, a lot of stuff going on with Austin Matthews, McDavid, a lot of good stuff. But Jose, welcome back. But there's a lot to go over today, and I'm excited for this one. We're getting every week we have these Wednesday streams. We're inching closer and closer to the regular season. And Jose, good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. But a lot to go over today, and it's an interesting time.
It's a very interesting time. It looks like the Leafs are probably going to make a trade coming up here. I say probably very loosely. Like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen at this point in time. It looks like they may make a trade, including Nick Robertson. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I feel like my opinions changed over the last day after reading everything that's come out. I'm not sure the Leafs should trade Nick Robertson. I feel like he should play for the Leafs, or maybe they just let him sit out because why get less value for that player when he's playing this game, right? And I feel like maybe his agent's giving him bad advice at this point in time. So we'll get to the Matthew stuff in a second. I will bring it up actually, but yeah, I just think maybe it's a case again of his agent giving him bad advice or something, or them trying to play this game where, trade us, or, we're not going to give you exactly what you want. Like the Leafs, we've seen this game before with Nylander and other players. So I feel like my opinions changed on that. I was saying, the Leafs should get something of equal value, but I don't know. Maybe they should just let him sit out, I think.
Yeah, Jose saying just keeping track of the Leafs had neck surgery a month ago, so I watch you guys. Hopefully you're recovering well, Jose. Hopefully we can give you something to watch while you're recovering. Hopefully you're doing well. Hey Joshua, how you doing? Let him play in Europe. Raptors Digest trade coming. It's possible. Trade does seem possible. Pretty imminent here. And again, we'll dive into a lot of reports, a bunch of different things today. We can go over some of the potential trade destinations for Nick Robertson. Trade Nick Robertson to the Dallas Stars. That is one that has came up a lot, and we know that a report came out yesterday from David Alter and Chris Johnston saying that Nick Robertson is sticking to the idea of playing somewhere else other than the Leafs. And last time we were live, which was on Sunday, I don't think this report had dropped yet at this was point. New. So this is new for us to discuss today. I know we were talking about it a bunch in the last stream, but I'm kind of curious to see everybody's opinion in chat. Again, people think we're going to make a trade before Monday. 74% say yes. I asked this last stream, and I'm going to keep asking it every week until we actually get a conclusion here. Will Nick Robertson, with the new reports and information that we've gotten, type yes or no if you think Nick Robertson is going to start the season with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Just type yes or no. I'm very curious to see what you think about that, because ultimately it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens with him. And Darius, I guess we can break down. We made videos on it, but it seems like Nick Robertson doesn't want to play with the Leafs anymore.
No, it seems like he's made up his mind, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? Or throwing logic out the door or out the window. Because logically, like, to me, Nick Robertson has, like, why would you want to be traded at this point in time? Like, finally, for the first time in your NHL career, at least, you have the opportunity to take whatever spot you want. Like I was talking about in a previous video, if he comes into training camp with a new coach and really, shines and shows what he can do, and maybe he's taken some steps in off-season training in different parts of his game, or at least shows that he's dedicated to improving that side of the game, defense, of course, I'm talking about, then I think it's wide open for him to take any spot he wants. And that on the Toronto Maple Leafs, like, you have an opportunity to play with Austin Matthews if you want. And I feel like he's just made up his mind, or maybe it's his agent that just said, hey, I feel like if you play somewhere else, you can get more money, like in the long term I'm talking about. It's just odd to me. I feel like it's finally opened up for him here on the left wing position, and he doesn't want to take it, or maybe they're holding out for more money. I'm not sure. Again, that's speculation, but at this point, looks like he won't start the season. Like, we're getting real close here, whether it's him sitting out or a trade. But if I was him, sign the contract and get to training camp. Don't lose any time. And don't miss any time, and get your season underway and try to fight for those spots, because you're fighting with a guy whose first NHL season in Matthew Knies was last year, right? And Bobby McMahon, who had a great half season, which is great. He'll probably be great, right? And I'm banking on that as a fan. But if you're Nick Robertson, why can't you look at that and be like, I can do better than that? Why not? What's the reason, right? His offensive game is better than both of them, I think. But it's the rest of the game that hasn't followed.
It dates back until the last season with the Marlies, even some other things like that. And, he obviously didn't start the season with the Leafs. He got called up later and everything started to work out in that regard. But the poll ended 50 or 67% said the Leafs will make a trade before Monday. I tend to agree. And there's a lot of interesting comments in the chat. And I want to have this discussion with you guys and you, Darius, especially.
Yep.
Dallas Stars, they keep coming up. We might have to have a video on that at some point because, again, the Nick Robertson with his brother in Dallas, the connection there with Jason Robertson. What are your thoughts?
I think it's an interesting fit. I don't know exactly where he fits in on that team right now with their current makeup, but the fact that his brother's there and it's on the West Coast where he's from originally, I feel like it could make sense. The one that made me laugh yesterday, I see a lot of people saying trade him to New Jersey, so he has to play Sheldon Keefe again.
No shot.
That would be hilarious. Not going to happen unless the Leafs really. I mean, they can trade him wherever they want, right? But they're not going to get anything of value in return if they're doing a trade like that just for that reason. But Dallas is an interesting fit. Again,
what would you want from Dallas? And people in the chat, type what you would want because everyone's talking about it.
Well, it's interesting because yesterday we were going through what his value is, and it's like a first-round pick or maybe a middling first-round pick from a couple of years ago, someone of that talent, right? But I think realistically, like I'm not sure what team is going to give you that for Nick Robertson because there's no proven track record there. There's no proven track record that he can stay healthy. When he has stayed healthy, like last season, he's put in the coach's doghouse, which other coaches and other GMs can look at that and be like, why, right? Why was he put in that position? Or what is there, about his game that they didn't like for those reasons? So I think that's interesting too. But I don't know. I don't know where he fits in for Dallas specifically. I can see him going to a team like Chicago or maybe San Jose, something like that. I just don't know what comes back in return. But again, we were looking at a guy like Jack McBain. I saw him play last week. Of course, it was a charity game, so he's not really trying, but he's a big guy that might be able to give, your third line an identity. Again, I'm kind of skeptical about getting guys like that, like Nick Ritchie, because they kind of fizzle out and sometimes don't work, but maybe something like that. I feel like you need, for sure, in my opinion, you need somebody who can play on the team, I think, right now. I think that's the biggest thing, but I don't know what you're getting in terms of great value in that way. Like, I just don't know what that looks like right now. Like a draft pick is a waste to me because you need somebody to play. Yeah,
that's what Devin's saying as well. You need a win now player. And that's the thing. Are you going to get a win now player for a guy like Nick Robertson? We talk about the window all the time. They have the next 3 years are probably their best competitive window in a while. Yeah, exactly.
Celebrini.
Yeah, for Celebrini. But the question is, who do you really want? Do they want to trade with the Penguins and then trade with Kyle Dubas? Do they want to trade with the Stars? The Stars make sense in theory. But obviously the assets you're going to get back. It is a bad time to trade him, but I think ultimately he is going to get traded for someone that can maybe factor into the lineup. But they want to do it for somebody in theory, hopefully, who can factor into the lineup and play. Jose! $20 donation for Jose. Let's everyone show Jose some love in the chat. He's always supporting Jose. I appreciate you always tuning in. Robertson will not play for the Leafs this year. I tend to agree, Jose. I tend to agree. Thank you so much for the donation.
It's looking that way. Thank you, Jose, so much. That was awesome. I appreciate that. It's looking like he's not going to play with the Leafs. I think he should, though, right? Two different things, obviously, but I think he should play with the Leafs. It's not looking like he's going to. It's going to be an interesting season in that way. A lot of people are throwing some trade proposals out there. So if you want to continue doing that in the chat, keep doing that. We'll get to them. But again, I think, like, I saw something yesterday. I'm just throwing it out there. Speculation.
Okay.
This might be wild, right? And you're gonna have to make the salary cap work, which I feel like will be really hard to start the season.
Thanks again, Jose.
Nick Robertson for a retained salary on Taylor Hall from Chicago. I feel like Chicago would love Nick Robertson, and I feel like the Leafs could use a few things from Chicago. Maybe not the perfect trade partner there, but I don't know. I don't know what you're going to get that's perfect in this scenario, right? So
Nate Robinson, the NBA player, the former NBA player. Yeah, I like that. I know someone in the chat typed something about Taylor Hall. What do we think about that in the chat? A nice little Nick Robertson for Taylor Hall. You're really swapping a young player for a veteran at that point.
Yeah.
And there is still some players that could factor into the equation. Alex Nylander, Nikita Gerbyankin, like a lot of different guys. Easton Cowan even, who's going to play his 8 games and probably go back to the OHL. Sorry, can't play in the AHL. OHL.
No, yeah.
Is Hall healthy?
Yes.
I think now he is healthy.
He is healthy now. Last year was not great for him, so obviously you'd like to see if he can pick it back up, like where he left off, because he looked good to start, and he got hurt and missed the rest of the year. Right at the beginning, I think he got hurt in November or maybe late October. But yeah, there's a lot of options. We talked about Zadina today in a video. He could be an option on a PTO. We haven't heard much about Matt Martin since last week. That could be another option. I mean, in a world where the salary works, I don't know how Treliving can make it work to start the season. But if you can have like Taylor Hall on the left side, at least Taylor Hall, Matthew Nyes, Bobby McMahon, maybe like Matt Martin or somebody there on the left wing. I don't know what you do with Cal Clutterbuck. Maybe even David Camp, this move. We're talking about that. You know, that would be really good, right? In a perfect way. I mean, if you move Camp out, what does Camp make? Like 2.4? I can't remember.
Yeah,
if you move him out, you can afford Taylor Hall at half retained, right? Because you can move a few things around and make it work. That would be interesting.
I think Willie's brother is going to break out. He's my dark horse, Alex Nylander. It's an interesting one. It's a very interesting one. Also, hit the like button if you're new. We go live every single Wednesday. Let's get to 30 likes. We're at 15.
I was thinking about this today, actually. So Alex Nylander is a
Patches
left wing.
Sorry to interrupt.
Patches, yep, that's another option, right? A lot of people are kind of putting that to the side as if it's not going to happen already, but we'll see. Alex Nylander is a left wing, even though he's a right shot. So that's another option, but he's on an AHL contract, so maybe they're waiting till the season starts to, because they're playing with the money right now, right? Like they're trying to keep themselves open for PTOs and to sign somebody out of camp. So, and just see what happens and if they like somebody, right? But Nylander could be an option too. I like him. I feel like he should get a shot. I just don't know where he fits in like long term, but I like him. I feel like he could get a shot on the third line.
Internal would be preferable. Cowan, Alex Nylander. Yeah. In theory, it would. I mean, obviously, yeah, because you don't have to give up assets, and that's probably what Brad Treliving is looking for. But at the same time, someone proposed this trade, and I'm seeing this a lot in our comment section.
I like this
of Frank Vetrano, and we probably should cover that in a video. We're getting a lot of comments, but it's Frank Vetrano 1.3 retained for Robertson, sign and trade Nick Robertson and a conditional third in 2027.
I feel like that is. You're getting good value in Vetrano. Like he's a guy who can help you win a Stanley Cup. Honestly, I really like his game if he plays lower in the lineup, which is probably where he would. Anyway, that's fine. Maybe third line or something like that. But he can chip in for a couple goals here and there. And Abruzzese, I feel like he's kind of past the point of like being a prospect. Like I feel like he's just a Marley now, right? He's just a guy who's there. No disrespect to him. I just feel like that window is past. I don't know if he has a future with the team. Robertson, if he wants to get traded, if you're going to Anaheim, you're way closer to home in California, right, where he's from. So that's great. Giving up a third, obviously, I mean, you're retaining the salary. I don't hate that trade as proposed, but I feel like you could work something around that. That's a decent framework.
Nick, will you stream the Jays game and Jays Digest? Nah, not tonight. Not tonight. Definitely not tonight. Where does Nikita Grabiankin play? Totally butchering his name, but could he make the Leafs opening day line? There is a world. Yep. I would say there's a world where he makes the Leafs opening day line. I don't think it's a world 100%. That's super likely, but I think that it's possible. He's probably the most NHL ready if you take Easton Cowan. I mean, I'm not fully convinced that it might be a bit early for Cowan, but Grabiankin's 22. Like he's a bit older. He's not super old, but he's a bit older. I think he could definitely factor into play depending on what they get for Nick Robertson, assuming they trade him. And maybe they have contingencies. Maybe if they get Pacioretty, then they won't, obviously play Grabiankin early or something like that. I think there's a lot. I think he has a lot of contingencies right now. Him being Brad Treliving, of course.
Grabiankin, to me, we'll see him this season. For him, I can't say he's going to start because I need to see him play in a Leafs uniform in preseason. Once I see that, I can tell you like what's going to happen. Obviously, we don't know what the coaches are thinking, but I might have a better idea. But we need to see him play in a Leafs uniform on North American ice to get a better feel for that. I feel like he won't start the season with the Leafs though. But we'll see him, and I feel like we'll see him a bunch this year.
I tend to agree.
Dynamic player.
And if you look at the Leafs forward chart here, I want to ask the chat, and Darius, of course, will ask you as well. What do we think that this team as constructed, we know what the defense is, we'll get into that after, but the team as constructed, specifically the forward group, just type yes or no in the chat. Do you think this is good enough to make a push for the Stanley Cup? Now, obviously, they didn't make many changes at all. They actually didn't make any changes to the, at least adding new players. They retained Connor Dewar, who was an RFA, and things like that. So assuming it stays like this, now, realistically, the chances that this is the opening day lineup are very low because it's either going to be Nick Robertson is in there, or I'm assuming they're going to trade someone or sign someone else. But as is, You can throw Nick Robertson if you want. Maybe throw him onto the second line and move someone down, or throw him into the third line, whatever you want to do. Darius, you think it's good enough?
Not to win a Stanley Cup. It's not. But as the season, we see it all the time. The team that's like, this isn't even final. I feel like they're going to do something before the season starts anyway. And like we see every year, the opening night roster is not even close to the team that goes into game one of the playoffs, right? Now, when I look at this, I just feel like this is kind of thrown together based on whatever, like where the players kind of lined up at the end of the season. Domi, to me, I wouldn't play him at center. I wouldn't do that. Holmberg has to be a center, whether it's third line or fourth line. To me, you try and move Kampf. Holmberg moves down to the fourth line. You try and find a third line center via trade, or maybe they're looking at signing somebody, but I feel like they're trying to add a left wing. That's what's come out, at least in terms of news. Domi goes up to the first line for me, and you put Nylander, Matthews, and Domi together on the first line, and I feel like that might be a recipe for success, but we'll see how it shakes out. Grebyankin could end up on the team, right? We don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but I think Domi third line center is a waste of what he can bring you as a winger with better players.
Yep. I mean, do we think Kampf starts the season on the Maple Leafs? Do we think that? I do think Pontus Holmberg probably will. He could. I mean, there's a world he gets phased out, though. There's a world that I think they give Holmberg a chance because of how good he was last year. But, I mean, there is, depending on what they do. Ryan Reeves, like, it's very interesting. It is very interesting. I don't like Domi on the third line necessarily. No. But
I just want to say real quick, too, because there's comments about Holmberg going and stuff like that. If Holmberg is not a Maple Leaf this year or like playing on the third line, I will be genuinely disappointed. Like, I thought he was great last year, and I feel like he's just going to get better because he's still relatively young, and he's really good on the defensive side of the puck and protecting the puck. Like, he's underrated. I feel like a lot of people are going to start to appreciate him this year.
Yeah, and there's obviously Jarn Krok and David Kampf, who definitely makes too much money. But
yes,
I think ultimately Reeves will be in there. I mean, like there's only going to be a couple changes for the for opening. I mean, it really depends what happens to Nick Robertson. Again, Nick Robertson is not in this, so he's not in this line.
Not signed, right? Yeah.
But yeah, it's because he's not signed. So in theory, that could happen. What about the defensive core? Is there anything we changed with this? I know we spoke about it in our video a little bit. I'm curious to see what you all think. Yes or no? Do we think that this defensive, the three line, the core we have is? Do you think this is Stanley Cup caliber? I'm on the side of yes. Whether or not they get Yanni Hakanpää, I think strictly from the defensive side, I think it is Stanley Cup caliber, assuming that Chris Tanev plays solid, continues to not go up, but continue to sustain the level he's been. And then OEL, he's the biggest question mark here, along with Liljegren. Really, that second line has a really, really high ceiling, but a bit of not a low floor necessarily, but a bit of a scary floor.
I think this defense, I look at it and I kind of like play with it. I'm like, yeah, it has good pieces. Could have win a Stanley Cup. I'm not sure. I look at the Oilers defense that just went to the Stanley Cup final, and I'm like, yeah, this could win a Stanley Cup, right? I just think it can. And like, obviously everyone's got to be playing on top of their game, but it's not just the defense pairings in the core. The entire team has to play better defensively, I think, like as a unit on the ice, because too many times they make some weird decisions. And I don't know if it was a Sheldon Keefe like systems thing that allowed some of these goals to go in. And obviously Samsonov, like I was not a fan of him at the end of the season, some of the goals he let in, but as a unit, they have to be better, I think. But yes, I do think this is good enough to win a Stanley Cup if they have a couple guys who can come in if there's an injury, like a Hakanpää, right? But we don't know what's going to happen with that.
And like we mentioned in our video today, we would swap the second and third line. I would probably have Benoit and McCabe at number 2. And then
Liljegren is sorry, go ahead.
I just don't like Liljegren.
It's not that I don't like him. It's that teams know they can bully him.
He disappointed me last year.
Now. Yes,
he disappointed me last year.
And it might have been because of his injury. I would like to see him fully healthy coming into this year. I want to see what he shows us.
There's a world where it's good.
There is a world where it's good, but I haven't seen that world yet.
I was going to say it's a small world somewhere.
Yes, it is. It's tucked away.
It's an unexplored world
to get there. But
we haven't seen it yet, but it's possible.
That's right. It is possible. But yeah, I thought that the defense in the playoffs was good, and that was with last year's core. I feel like this is a lot better. Like adding Tanev alone is crazy. Yeah. Like that's going to make a huge difference. I liked what OEL did for the Panthers last year and moving the puck and all that. That's something that the Leafs are lacking as well. So that's going to be a huge thing coming into this year. So much improved. I think it could win a Stanley Cup, but the team has to play better defensively. It's not just the defense. And I think the goaltending is automatically better as long as Wall stays healthy.
Yep. And obviously Joseph Wall, Anthony Stolarz, those are the two goalies at this current juncture at the very least. Not one of the six can stay healthy. I think Liljegren is the big wild card. Also, KYT 2024. I saw your message. Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. Love the videos. Thank you.
Thank you
for the support. Glad you continue to stream every Wednesday. We go live every Wednesday for the rest of the year. Hopefully.
Well, depending in season, we'll see how that shakes
until
out
the season
with the
starts.
schedule. Yeah, we're not going to stream while the Leafs are playing.
Of course not. I agree that D has not been the problem in the playoffs, and now it's improved.
Yep,
it's been a problem a little bit, but the bigger problem is scoring. Really.
Yeah, you're always going to have defensive lapses, right? And like that, like it happens to every single team. So I don't think that, at least last year, I thought the defense played really well. Yeah, I thought they were fine. It was the scoring, and it's been the scoring for the last couple of years. They just can't figure it out. And I think there's too many pieces. Like, I don't think Järnkrok's a bad player, but I just feel like they don't have a spot for him. Like, he's just kind of floating around doing whatever. And, they can't get anything going because all the lines are mixed and matched all the time. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But the one thing I wanted to mention on stream too with Max Domi is I feel like he should play higher up in the lineup, because right now he's slotted in third line center. I don't know how much, there's no truth to that at this point, but we'll see how training camp goes.
Just mock.
Yes, just mock. He finished the year with Matthews, and they look great with Bertuzzi. They look great. No Mitch Marner to be found, right? And I'm not saying Mitch Marner's a bad player. I think he's a good player, right? But obviously there's a lot of distraction with his situation and all that. I do not like the way Austin Matthews plays with Mitch Marner. I'm not saying that they're bad together. They put up a lot of points, but I noticed a significant difference in Matthews' playing with Bertuzzi and Domi. His play specifically, playing with those two. He played bigger. He took maybe more risks. He was playing more physical, I thought, because the other two were throwing the body around. When he plays with Marner, it's just kind of, they're, passing around, and they're very passive, I feel like. And I'm not saying he doesn't throw the body when he's playing with Marner, but there's a big difference with those two. So I feel like he can't play with Marner this year.
Yeah, I love the Domi and Matthews duo. I'm excited to see how the goaltending. Yeah, the goaltending is it's another big question mark, is whether or not Stolarz and Wall are able to. Riley and Robertson for Trouba. It's craziness.
That is no.
I kind of agree with you. I mean, and it's funny we're talking about how offense is a problem when they literally have a stacked top six, in theory at least. You have Tavares, who's on the decline. What's up, Landshark? You made this one.
Landshark. Yes.
I appreciated your comment last time saying you weren't going to make it. But yeah, I agree with you. Get Domi in there. Get him in there with Matthews. That was something we were talking about at the time. And hopefully Craig Berube, again, different coach, maybe he'll see the same thing. I mean, it was just, they were much better. They came back from a 3-1 deficit. Domi was a big part of that. He was a huge part of that. And ultimately they re-signed him. But having him on the third line, you're also surrounding him like, you're not setting him up for failure or anything. He's used to playing on the lower lines. But I don't love him playing alongside Pontus and Järnkrok especially. There's too many floaters. I mean, we mention that every time, but we'll get into Pacioretty here in a little bit because I still have a screenshot for that. But even adding a guy like Pacioretty would do so much to everyone around him, even though he's not the player he used to be. Yeah,
and I don't know, Pacioretty could be an interesting
I'm higher on him than you.
I probably, just because of his injury history. It's the specific injury he's had.
Let me ask you this.
He can get it again.
Yeah, I'll ask everyone in the chat this. If you replace Pacioretty with, pick anyone of your choice on here that or whoever ends up being, do you feel, because we've been talking about floaters in the stream and all this stuff. Let's say Järnkrok goes or someone goes, whoever you want to replace, just position, whatever it is. Do you feel more confident if Pacioretty is on that third and fourth line instead of one of the other guys?
I don't. And the reason is,
and I want to ask the chat as well. Would you feel more confident if Pacioretty replaced, who do you think is most realistic, Järnkrok or someone like that? You move stuff around.
Yeah, you'd have to move it around. I don't think it's going to look like this. Even some of the Marlies might make the team instead of this lineup. I don't know what this is. I feel like they're going to make a move. Treliving said like they're not done. Like something's happening.
Hypothetically,
right? Hypothetically, right? I feel like Holmberg can maybe take that center spot. I'm not in love with Kampf anymore. He makes too much. But I don't feel more comfortable with Pacioretty because he's older, more susceptible to injury, right? And I feel like come playoff time, he has that experience and he knows he'll have that mindset of what it takes to win, right? And that leadership. But is he going to be able to be the player that he was before? And him being on the third line, is he going to help that much? I just don't know. I'd rather a younger guy get in there and kind of, scrap it out for that spot and play with speed, honestly, because the Leafs are getting a bit slower too. So even Gribyankin, right? I feel like by end of the season, I think I'd rather see a player like that, to be honest. If you watch his KHL highlights, he's good, right? It just has to translate to the North American ice.
Realistically, if they sign Pacioretty, there's a higher chance that he gets injured or is just noticeably slower than even last year. than it is that he puts up any sort of decent campaign for the Leafs. So I agree with you. I was curious to see. I was playing devil's advocate, but I mean, I tend to agree. Like, to be honest, I think if you put in Max Pacioretty for one of the bottom guys, David Kampf, I don't think there's. I think it's like someone said an apple for an apple. That's the best way I could put it as well. Like, I don't think it changes much either way. Obviously, if they sign Pacioretty, you get the only benefit I could see, is that playoff time. I would prefer to have Pacioretty than one of the other guys, assuming neither of them break out. But at the same time, there's also a decent chance that Kampf has an okay year, or that Järnkrok has an okay year. I really don't like David Kampf, but the rest of it, at the contract, I mean, if he was making $1 million a year, sure, he's a fine player. 19 points last year in 72, whoever has 72 games. But at the cap he's making, the Leafs now are handicapped a little bit by the fact that they have David Kampf and Timothy Liljegren. Like, that's too much money per year for two players that we're sitting here saying, I put up to both of you. I put up to you, Darius, and the chat as well. And both times, whether it was the defensive pairing or offensive, the two players that kept getting talked about were David Kampf and specifically in the defensive, Timothy Liljegren. And that's not how it. It's never a good sign. I'll say that.
No, and one thing I want to point out since we're on this topic is David Kampf. I see a lot of arguments to keep in because he is so good on the penalty kill. Can you bring up the screenshot before this one? Yes, that penalty kill percentage is horrible, and that was their penalty kill percentage last year, right? Like, I don't care, get new personnel in there, try something else, do something else. I don't think you need him for that cap.
Boucher's gone,
fourth line. Boucher is gone, right? It could be coaching as well, right, and systems, but that's horrible. So if you're going to lose a player like that, I mean, you have Dewar, who I thought was pretty good on the PK as well. Maybe you just replace him with him, right? And you know, I thought this was interesting from Ryan too. How about Tyler Johnson? He can come in as a third line center. You move Holmberg to the fourth line center. Now you have some house money playing with the wings, right? I feel like you can really have some options there. They got to solidify the middle of the ice first.
What's up, Shane?
See what that's looking like. Hey, Shane. And yeah, and then kind of go from there. Lots of options. One guy we've forgotten about too, who's going to start the year on the left wing, Easton Cowan. He's going to start the year as a Leaf. He is.
For game one.
8 games.
1 to 8.
Yeah.
So very interesting. I'm going to read some of the chat. I don't think we trust Pacioretty. Most people agreed. No Pacioretty. Tend to agree. Too slow and fragile. Holmberg and Järnkrok just don't push the playoff needle. No points in the playoffs. And that's kind of the thing, is that, but at the same time, not many teams, really not any teams, but not many around the NHL have guys in the third or fourth line. Where, like, every team has a couple guys that really don't push it towards the playoffs. You kind of just ride the hot hand. Depending on what's going on and how the season went. You mentioned how different it's going to be. If we looked at last season, the start of the season this time last year compared to what was actually happening in the playoffs, a lot of different things. We had Ryan Reeves get scratched. Obviously, John Klingberg, we would have been talking about him factoring in to being one of the biggest pieces. He got scratched after a dozen games. So there's a lot of different things, but I think the Liljegren thing is also very interesting. Is he too small for Berube's play style? Landshark said, I mean, it's very possible, and I think Craig Berube is a bigger... I think he's going to make a bigger difference to not necessarily their record, honestly. I don't think there's going to be a huge variance in the record between Keefe and Berube. I think the way they get prepared to step into the playoffs come playoff time in the summer is going to be the big telling question here.
It's the mental aspect of the game. And I mean, like, how many times did they start a game last year down 1-0? Like, I don't have the exact stat, but it felt like a lot. Or they would just squeeze out of the first period, maybe 0-0, or maybe with a lead, but they looked horrible, right? And you could tell that they were going to collapse. And it's just stuff like that I feel like may be changed with Craig Berube. But in terms of points and stuff like that, like, they're going to finish probably exactly where they finished last year, and they're going to make the playoffs, right? So that's all fine and dandy. But yeah, I keep seeing people say Domi needs to be up there with Matthews. I think that's the play, right? I think that, like, they played great together to end the year, so I feel like that's exactly what should happen. And asking about Alex Nylander too, he's not going to start the year probably with the Leafs because he's on the AHL contract. They're probably playing it safe with him, see what he has, and then throughout the year they can call him up if they want. And I'm sure he's going to get a look during the year. He's too good to be in the AHL, I think, full time, so he'll probably get a look somewhere like down the stretch.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different, and of course the brother.
A lot of options.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing. Their depth is wild. Robertson, a good pick, maybe a bit more for Frank Vatrano. Yeah, I mean, Frank Vatrano is he's a guy that the Leafs could target. You need younger players that are hungry, and that's the thing.
That's why I almost didn't even pay the Pacioretty thing any mind, because how many times did they go out and get, Patrick Marleau, who I think helped the team, but then kind of handicapped them at the end when they traded him, giving up Seth Jarvis basically with that draft pick. And then you get Joe Thornton, who made honestly no difference. And if you watch the 24/7 clip, no leadership at all. And how many times are they going to go out and get these guys like Max Pacioretty, who are 36, about to retire, and they make no difference, but they got them for the leadership. They need younger guys who are hungry, that want to be here and want to win, right? And play the right way, play responsible, like Holmberg. I like Holmberg.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a good point. And ultimately, it's going to be very interesting. I still think Matthews, Marner, and Nylander should be on separate lines. Each one has enough talent to drive the line and the depth to fill the top 3 lines, like most teams' top 6 lines.
That's what Pittsburgh did when they won their cups, right? That's exactly what they did. And
now, how will Mitch Marner feel about moving to the 3rd line?
See, that's exactly what I was going to say. Shane, you're totally right, and you're not going to like it, but Marner
in a contract
is going to be on the 3rd line. Right, he's not going to like that. But then play yourself up, I guess, right? Like play yourself up, you can move further up in the lineup.
Nylander down in theory.
In theory, but would you do that? Nylander had a great season last year. I thought he had.
I mean, I wouldn't.
Obviously, his best season of his career, and he looked awesome when he played in the playoffs. But I don't know. There's a lot they can do there.
Wayne's saying David Kemp's points per game, PPGA per 60 minutes is the best PK forward in the team. True, but their PK was so bad.
Right.
So the best on a bad thing,
Right. Yeah. Even on a bad team in the NHL, somebody has to score, right? And it doesn't mean that they're necessarily a great player and you would take them on your team. But I'm not saying you have to get rid of the personnel. I'm just saying, if you have to cut him to make way for a better team or a better lineup, do that, because the PK wasn't that good anyway. And you can find somebody else like Dewar, like Holmberg can play on the power, the penalty kill. Marner will obviously play on the penalty kill.
Oh, mind.
And you have a new coach.
Spreading out the 3.
I don't hate that idea either.
Marner, Tavares, McMahon line, like, it would make things deeper. I mean, we're talking about how, like, when I mentioned it, when I asked you guys if this line was Stanley Cup caliber, you guys said not really. The 3rd and 4th lines are weak. I don't mind the 4th line necessarily. I like Dewar a lot. Ryan Reeves does his job. David Kemp, But I don't know if you move everyone down. But at the same time, I don't know. I like maybe move Domi up, like you mentioned. Get Domi with Matthews, move Marner. Nylander, Domi, Nylander could be a funny one.
Imagine you have Holmberg, Marner, Nyes as your 3rd line. That's a good 3rd line. It's not bad.
Crazy 3rd line.
That's not bad at all. And I think, and this doesn't even factor in Robertson, who I think is a great player if he ends up signing. So that could be great too. That's a great 3rd line. And I think I totally agree with Shane in this way. I just feel like they'll never do it. Maybe Berube might do it. I just feel like Keefe was never going to do it, splitting up the lines, because I feel like sometimes when you watch the playoffs, it was like top line would go out. They would do some cool stuff. Maybe they'll, it almost looks like they'll score, right? That's great. 2nd line will go out. They'll get some chances, right? Cool. Then guaranteed, the next 5 minutes, nothing will happen because the 3rd line's going to go out. They're probably going to get scored on, or the 4th line. And there will be no offense there. Maybe they'll chip the puck in and go chase it like last year. That was fine. But
dump and chase. I love the idea of splitting up, and I think that's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on. Can you explain what something big is brewing is? Sure. Robertson report came out that he does not want to play with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's kind of where all this conversation originally stemmed from. So something big is brewing in the sense of a trade. And it's gonna happen soon. We had a poll at the start. Most likely within the next week or 2, could be sooner, could be later. And now we're kind of just talking about the fact that we know that Elliot Freeman said that at least we're looking at left wing options. And now we're kind of putting it into perspective. Again, this is not a set in stone thing at all. I mean, the chances that this or the line are like 5%. There's no way that these are going to be the actual lines, especially with the fact that Easton Cowan is going to most likely play his 8 or 9 games like Fraser Minton did last year. And maybe more. I mean, realistically, if he really goes out and puts up 5 goals in 8 games or something absurd, they'll probably keep him. Probably.
Here's the other fun thing, too. Here's the other fun thing about the lineup heading into the year. What if Fraser Minton makes the team now? I don't know if he will, and he can play in the AHL, so I feel like that's more likely. But maybe you have a 3rd line option there, too.
And Nikita Grebyankin. I mean, there is a alternate universe where Grebyankin, Cowan, and Minton are all playing on the Leafs at one time. Maybe not this year. Maybe not this year. But
it could happen, though. Yeah.
I mean, there's a chance, whether it's injuries, whether it's whatever. Now, in 2026, when everyone's really starting to come up, we're starting to get an approach to Hildeby territory. Then everything's going to be good. Also, hit the like button. Let's get to 50 likes. We all like seeing numbers go up. We have 35. Just click the button for us if you enjoy the streams. A lot of good talk going on now. It's so interesting to me. there's just so many question marks about this team. Like, I feel like most teams have less question marks than the Leafs. I feel like that makes sense every year, though. It's the Leafs.
Yeah, I mean, the universe revolves around the Leafs, it seems like, in news cycles and stuff like that. So for sure. Jose with a great point, which I have to get back to with Robertson. I don't understand the trade request. I don't. That your biggest, right? Like it makes no sense, which is why I feel like it's coming from his agent, right? Because it really doesn't make sense at this point, because you have all the opportunity in the world to take any spot you want on the left wing. Honestly, you do. And there's a new coach. Come and impress him, right? With your game. Like, see what you can do. And if it still doesn't work out, okay, I want to trade now, right? But the timing of it, I thought that was weird. I feel like he was really disrespected by being sent back to the Marlies.
He felt disrespected.
Yes, I think that's what happened here. And if you ask me, that is the business. And I feel like you have to understand that sometimes because of the way his contract is structured and made it easy for the team. But I feel like he was probably really disrespected by that. And I don't know if he has any merit to stand on in that way, because
it's a business.
You look at his stats. Yeah, if you look at his stats, like there's nothing really to stand on there in that way. So that's pretty interesting. But
Minton's an interesting case to me. I think there's at least an argument that can be made that he would be better served developing in the NHL rather than the AHL. NHL is more of a structured league.
This is true.
There's that case for Minton, Cowan, and Nikita Grabyankin in the sense of realistically Cowan should probably be playing in the AHL, but it's not possible.
Yes, but it's not. Yes, exactly. No, he should. Logic says that he's way too good for the OHL, right? The only thing he's going to go back to the OHL to do, which don't get it twisted, he is after his 9 games, because it makes no sense to have him in the NHL this year for his development or anything.
What if he puts up 10 goals in 8 games?
Like maybe, but I still have a hard time believing it's going to be good for his development long term. I do. Like I feel like he's going to be sitting a lot, honestly. No, it's not because he's not a good player. He's too young.
We'll have to cherish those 8 games.
Yes, and we will. Like I was enjoying Minton last year, although
he wasn't great.
He looked a little out of place, yeah, but it was like, this is fun, right? Like every time he got on the ice, you're like, oh, a new guy. Like, this is cool.
Yeah.
So
it's like a trade deadline piece.
Yeah.
It was like Ilya Labushkin. No, I'm just kidding.
No, very different. Very different.
Not at all.
Not a great piece, that was.
Fred McMahon. There's so many options. Domi, Matthews, Nylander, Nyes, Marner, Yarncroc, McMahon, Tavares, Dewar, Holmberg, Kemp, Reeves is our best lineup with these players.
I just don't know.
So you're just stacking the first line, and I like the Domi Matthews thing.
Yeah,
a lot. I don't mind Marner, Nyes, Yarncroc. I don't mind it. I'd almost rather put Nylander on the third line in this scenario, though.
Yeah, putting Marner at center is very interesting. I just don't think it would work come playoff time, so I don't think it's worth it. And we tried it with Nylander, who I think would be better fit for center.
Yes.
Than Marner last year, and it didn't work. So I just feel like logic says don't do that with Marner, because especially come playoff time, I just don't think that's going to happen. It's not going to work personally.
Realistically, I think the Leafs need a third line center.
Yes, I think that's what they're looking for.
And I'll ask you who.
I don't know what that looks like right now, and I feel like the answer will be a trade deadline piece. I think that's realistically, if you're looking at the playoffs, throughout the season, they're just probably going to do the same thing they always do, which is, cycle everybody around and see what works for that specific game. But come playoff time, it's probably going to have to be somebody at the trade deadline, like to solidify that position. Because
I think they might try to fix it before the season, but
maybe. But then, that's what we're talking about, where something big is brewing right now, where like it could be Robertson plus and multiple pieces moving, because I feel like that's kind of what it's going to be.
I think the outcomes for Nick Robertson, a trade, will either be a straight up trade for a prospect, like a 1-for-1 prospect trade, similar to what we saw. Not that Nick Robertson's a prospect anymore, but similar to what we saw on a much lower scale, of course, with Rucker McGroarty. Mm-hmm. I think like a 1-for-1 or like a pick for a player, something like on the smaller end, or it could be a part of a huge or a bigger blockbuster deal. Now, whether that includes thinning out one of the forwards on the bottom 2 lines, whether that's Kemp, whether that's Yarncroc, or whether that's trading Timothy Liljegren along with Nick Robertson and really changing things up, that is the question. But the trade is either going to be on a smaller scale or a bigger scale to fix some of the holes that they see. Specifically, 1 third line center would fix and make this team look a hell of a lot deeper, very fast.
Much better. Yeah, very quickly. Again, this is just a mock lineup. This is from Daily Faceoff, by the way, so if anyone wants to go check it out, you can go check it out there. But Max Domi, third line center, makes no sense to me. He's way better suited as a winger. And I just don't know if they have anyone solidified right now, because if you're bringing more pieces in, Calf has to go to make the salary work.
But he's making a lot of money.
He's making a lot of money. You're going to have to sweeten the pot there.
Yeah.
And I think Holmberg is better suited at center. So I don't know who sent that lineup. I'm sorry. Antonio. I think he's better suited at center because he's a center. So
you could just swap Domi and Holmberg if you really wanted to, and then just see what goes from there. But
yes, but again, I feel like Domi should be higher in the lineup.
And that's what I'm saying. I'd rather him play with Matthews anyway. So it's kind of
yeah.
But then Nyes moved down. Holmberg at the center. Nyes left wing, third line.
I don't hate Holmberg. Holmberg and Marner play pretty well together. Like Holmberg was on that first line for a little bit last year. They played pretty well together. If you did Holmberg in the center as a third line, is what I'm saying. Marner on the right, and you did Nyes on the left. I think that could be pretty interesting. Nyes is a good power forward in that way.
So Nyes, Holmberg, Marner, third line.
Yeah, and then I would do like Tavares second line, just because
keep the second line the same, really, and then
McMahon and I don't know about the same. I wonder if you play with Nylander on the first line, but anyway, you could do Yarncroke and Tavares and Bobby McMahon. Maybe that's actually your third line, right? You kind of play with it.
It's a fun activity, and realistically.
Fun thing.
By the time it gets, it's like moving puzzle pieces here. Don't forget about Alex Steves. Yeah, Steves as well. Like
also another option. Alex Nylander.
Infinite options at this point for the Leafs, and Grebyankin keeps coming. I have a weird feeling he's gonna really impress. I mean, he's 6'2". He's incredible.
He looked great in the KHL. He's won a championship already. I'm really high on him. I just need to see him play. Now I'm gonna have a real hot take here for you, okay, Nick, and everyone in the chat. So they have a lot of options right now, and everyone's coming to camp. Whoever plays the best is going to take those spots. Whoever plays the best. Yeah. Hot take, everyone.
That's crazy.
Whoever comes in and just shows Craig Berube I'm the best, they're getting those spots.
It's a Habs Digest. It's not always Habs Digest type take right there. Just really outside the box.
That's right. Yeah.
Domi can set up Matthews. Marner needs to set up Tavares. Willie drives his own line with his Swedish friend's brother.
Holmberg. I just don't know if they're well suited for William Nylander.
Jose, I think Willie can. Jose asked what players are on PTOs. I think someone answered your question. We had Matt Martin, Cal Clutterbuck. We covered him today. A video on Philippe Zadina, James Van Riemsdyk, Gustav Lindstrom. A lot of guys. I think everyone one is Clutterbuck maybe, but
Clutterbuck probably. I think everyone left in terms of signings would be a PTO. So don't expect the Leafs to like sign somebody before training camp kind of gets underway, because I feel like the rest will now be PTOs. They'll see what they have in them in camp, and if they don't like it, they'll cut them, and that'll be it. So I wouldn't expect the Leafs to make any like actuals besides Hawk and Paw. So besides that, I wouldn't expect anything else. But there could be a trade. I like Vetrano too. That's an interesting idea. If you can get rid of Camp, maybe, and kind of play with the lineup that way.
Kevin LeBanc as well.
LeBanc is a good option too. I like LeBanc. I think he would be really good on a good team. I'm high on him. I feel like he's kind of withering away there in San Jose, like everyone else. Yeah.
Nick Robertson for Cole Perfetti. I've seen that. We've seen that floating around. I don't know if the Jets do it.
I don't know if the Jets do that either. I have to admit, I have heard this before actually from Mark Freitas. We've used his work before, or some articles. He did suggest this trade. I don't know if the Jets do it because I feel like Cole Perfetti is more established in the NHL.
He is small,
and the Jets probably know that. He's smaller. He is also a center. So that could be interesting, but we'll see.
Curious.
It's also from here.
Big trade coming. I'm thinking multiple pieces. Mark my words, I will. If we have a stream about a big trade we think so as well. Quite frankly, I think also we're 8 likes away from 50. If we could if you enjoy the weekly streams.
Landshark, I think as we go along here in the comments. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Shane said Hockey Trade Rumors had an article saying Leafs aren't finalizing Hawk and Paw contract. 99% official.
So
is that new or is that from the Chris Johnson one? Shane, you want to DM me that article real quick? I'll have a look at it. Yeah. Shoot me a DM of that article. But we made a video, or we're gonna. I know there was an article. It'll probably come out tomorrow, I think, about Yanni Hakanpää. There's some interesting things on that front as well.
Actually, a pretty big update, and I'm not buying everything that's being sold right now, at least in terms of the news or what's being said. So especially with the Leafs, there's so much going on. We're going to get so much from Mitch Marner this season. It's going to be a huge distraction.
Yep.
Like it's going to be a huge distraction. I think there's a bigger trade than we think coming with multiple pieces to make this team better in the forward department. I feel like they like where they are defensively, and the goaltending is solidified right now, or they're going to see where they're at with that. I feel like they're really ready to go into the season with that. So that'll be fun to watch. I feel like there is a big trade coming.
Definitely. And the hockey thing is something we can continue to discuss probably in next Wednesday's stream. I feel like we'll have some more info on that. I wonder if Hockey comes into PTO. Hopefully, don't fully feel comfortable. Feels likely. Be interesting.
Matt Martin and Ryan Reeves on the same team doesn't make sense to me. No. It just doesn't. But although it'd be fun exercise. Again, another guy I think is too old. The only reason I think he's the same age as Clutterbuck. The only reason I like Clutterbuck is because I've seen what he can do with the Islanders and the role he plays, and I feel like they need more of that, the Leafs. So that's the reason I'm higher on Clutterbuck than a guy like Cogliano. Good option though.
Thanks, Shane. Video on that tomorrow. We have a video on that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Nick Robertson didn't earn the spot. Nothing to do with not being treated fairly. Guy's terrible in his own end. He is bad in his own end. He's had some interesting plays in his own end. It's some.
There's a couple times. Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's a couple times this season where I was sitting down watching whatever game it was, whoever they were playing, and he would do something in the neutral zone where I was like, I learned not to do that in junior hockey. Like little plays where I'm like, did you really think that was going to work? Where he tries to chip it past somebody. It just doesn't work. So if he cleans that up, like I think he can be better. Just clean it up, simplify his game in both zones and get better. Easier said than done, but his offensive game, like he's really good. He's a really good option for the Leafs if he were to stay, man.
Hey, Darius, you got to be Portuguese.
You figured me out.
He's figured out.
That's right.
It got to be
figured out.
It got to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what Brad Treliving does. That's the biggest thing for me is like, I didn't expect there to be this much left at this point. We're almost in September.
Yeah.
And stuff is happening.
Mariner interesting Robertson exercise
for Crosby. Wow,
no, that's Kyle Dubas would do that, I think. Not putting words in his mouth, but I feel like he would do something like that. Now, question for the chat, fun little exercise, because I know where I stand on this, but I feel like there's strong opinions on either side. We've had 1 year of Brad Treliving. Do we like Brad Treliving? Yes or no? As the Leafs GM, do you think he's done a good job? Do you like him as a representative of the Leafs as a GM? I'm going to go yes, I do. And I like Kyle Dubas to start. And then things got a little weird, right? He was bringing in some players where I was like, I don't think this is going to help them in the playoffs. I like Brad Treliving, what he's done so far. I feel like he's made the team better.
Thank you all for getting us to 51 likes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Likes. Let's get to 75. Swayman still doesn't have a contract. We like Brad. I like Brad. But we need more time to see. Oh, that's what Meat said.
Yeah.
I like him so far. He's done well.
Yeah, see?
Screw Dubas. Yeah, I agree. I throw shade at Dubas any chance I get in videos, so.
You do, actually. That is right. That is true. Yeah, near the end, Dubas, I was like, this is not the formula. This is certainly not the formula. And he just doubled down. It just didn't make sense.
Someone wants 10 mil. Yeah, no chance. Let's get the Leafs to go out and get Swayman. How about that?
I think I saw somewhere that Swayman has the same agent as Nylander, and Nylander held out that 1 year, like till December, till the deadline. So that's going to be interesting for the Bruins. Is Swayman worth 10 million?
No.
He's worth quite a bit. I don't know about 10 million.
There's two goalies though that like we're making 10 million AB. It was like Carey Price back in the day and Bobrovsky now. So it's like,
yeah. Someone also said, I saw it on Twitter. It was a random tweet. They were like, that's the curse of beating the Leafs in the first round. You make $10 million as a goalie.
I mean, that's more than Hellebuck. I take Hellebuck every day. Like there's a lot of different.
Yeah. No, it's true. A lot of really good goalies in the league not making 10 million. So very interesting.
Leafs have interest in Scott Lofton, Jared McCain, Adam Larson. They call it Ehlers is an interesting one, but I feel like, again, I don't think they make a big splash. I don't think they're going to get Larson. I don't think they make any more big splashes to the defensive core. I think they rocket maybe Yanni Hakanpää's their only other question mark. They need to focus on offense. If I see them go out and get another crazy or make a trade for a defenseman, I won't be upset, but I'll be a bit puzzled.
Yeah. See, the thing with Shesterkin for me, if we're on the topic of goaltenders, this is going to be a hot take for a lot. He's the best goalie in the entire NHL to me. So to me, it's like, hey, what do you want? 12 million. All right, sign here, right? Because you're the best. So
he's one of the best.
One of the best. And will he get 12.5? I think that would be a little silly. I feel like they'll talk him down a bit, but I think he's the best goalie in the NHL right now. But be interesting. Joshua keeps saying Morgan Frost too. I just don't like the Flyers have almost no center depth. So I feel like they're going to not move off of that player because naturally he's a center and they would like to keep him. But that would be perfect for the Leafs. If you could make that happen, that is perfect, man. His dad used to be the PA announcer for the Leafs. Like that'd be awesome. But yeah, Andy Frost used to be on the radio and the PA guy for the Leafs. So that'd be fun to see his son play for the Leafs, but yeah, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Get your Sturk into the Leafs. How about that? That would be great.
That would be a massive trade.
I don't care who the Leafs bring in, as long as it's not old guys like Thornton and Spezza just for nostalgia purposes. Luckily, Dubas is out, so that won't happen.
Yeah, I'm done with that. The idea of that helps you win a cup. I just don't think that's true. It just doesn't true. I like the idea of adding guys who have won the cup, right? But just adding old guys because they've been around. Like I think that works. Like that's been proven. So I like the idea of guys who like Stolarz. He's won the cup. You add him, but he's bringing value. It's not just because he's old and been around, right? He's adding value to your team. So I think there's
You say Stolarz?
Sorry?
You say Anthony Stolarz? Is that who you said?
Anthony Stolarz, yeah, goalie. Yeah. OEL too, just won a cup. I feel like he's going to surprise.
Stolarz isn't that old.
No, I didn't say he was old. I said he's young. They didn't add him for the purpose of being old.
Okay,
yeah. They didn't sign him because he's old. They signed him
what we're all saying in the chat is Max Pacioretty. That's what we're talking about here. 35-year-old Max Pacioretty. Hey boys, nice joining you tonight. Got a date waiting. Walter, go and enjoy your date. Nothing like Leafs Digest before a date. I heard it helps. Thank you so much, Walter. Have a good date, my friend. Have a good date.
Enjoy.
If Landeskog is coming back, the Avs are pretty screwed cap-wise. There's older players and over the hill and desperate players. I still think Pacioretty has a bit of life left. Hockey-wise,
I think he would be useful for a team. Like you said, he would still be useful, but not for the Leafs. I don't see that fit there. I'd rather a younger guy who can come in, and they have so many options, right? And I watched, like, there's so many teams that win that, like even Florida last year. There's guys who come in that are young that you've never heard of, and they make a difference, right? You don't need guys all the time. Obviously, there's like Okposo types that and to come in at the end of their career and finally win a cup, like of course. But it could be a Marley at the end of the day that makes a difference. Even Steve, someone like that. Like I'm kind of over the signing guys just because they're old thing.
Especially when the Leafs at this current point have so many players in the pipeline that they could use, whether it's younger guys, Nikita Grabyankin, or like the older type, like 24-year-olds, Alex Steves, like guys who can just play. Or at least give them a chance to play, and they're still most likely to be equal level to those guys, minus the leadership. I'm stoked for the Wall-Stolarz combo. Has a chance to be really good. I'm very curious to see, by the end of the year, who starts playoff game 1, assuming it gets there, or who turns into their number 1 goalie. Because, I mean...
I still think, barring health, it'll be Wall, of course.
But Stolarz has been really good, too.
The thing for me is he had an interview. I was like, okay, he's pretty good. Came up from the Marlies like that. They interviewed him and he was talking about like mindfulness and all this stuff. And he does like meditation and he takes care of his mentals, right? And that side of the game. And I was like, all right, great. Like I'm all in. Like this guy knows what's up, right? Like it's so important. And I don't hear a lot of players talk about it. And he like prioritizes that. And he's a goalie. Like that's so big for a goalie. So like I know Matt Murray does that as well. So I'm excited to see if he stays healthy what Woll can do this year. I think he's going to have a really good year.
I'm really excited for it. I think Stolarz is going to have a great year too. I said it at the time of the signing. Just a matter of who takes. And again, injuries happen, unfortunately. And like, God forbid someone gets one of the two goalies get injured big. The other one's going to have to step up. That's why you have two goalies. You also have Matt Murray, who could also step up and be 1B on a good team. Like there's a world where he bounces back and he could be a backup goalie on a cup contending team.
The thing with Matt Murray too is like we've talked about it in videos. The skill is there. He can't stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, and we had a video on it last week. He had both hips replaced. He said he's feeling good. He's finally like practicing again and getting in rhythm. And he played in the AHL last year too. Like he played games and now he said he's feeling better. So I think the skill is there, right? If he can stay healthy,
and he's not old,
but he's definitely not old still. Like he's
29.
There might still be something there. I think so. Yeah, something like that.
So younger than Stolarz, which is hilarious.
Yeah. So it'll be. I think Stolarz. I totally agree with Shane, by the way, too. And I'm not trying to like overrate the Leafs goalies or anything like that or get too excited, but I think Stolarz is the type of guy like maybe Max Talbot that you kind of find early. Like a lot of teams are using him as a backup goalie, and he's great in the roles he comes into. But maybe they kind of found the guy where now he's really going to flourish with the Leafs. I hope at this point in his career, but we'll see. because he's technically older, but for goalies, like I feel like they only kind of come into their own at 25, 26. So he's not that old. I feel like he's in his prime as a goaltender. We'll see. We'll see what he does. It's gonna be fun. But I feel like they have some better options now.
Is Murray going to play 10 plus this year? It completely depends on injuries. I mean, if Stolarz and Wall are both healthy, or assuming they're playing decent, unless one of them has like a 5 goals against average to 30 games, and then they have to do basically what happened with Samsonov last year, actually, when he was struggling at the start so badly, so they had to call up Martin Jones. If that happens, it could happen again. Though I don't think either of the current goalies. I like the outlook of Stolarz Wall a lot more than Wall and Samsonov, even though Samsonov had a great year the year before last. No one was really bought in, and thankfully, I guess it would have been Treliving didn't extend him.
Yeah, no. And I think the only reason that they extended Murray is for like the cap hit, because obviously there's very low risk for the Leafs there. And I'm pretty sure if he's not healthy enough to play or they can see that he can't keep up or whatever, they can cut him. It's not the type of contract where they have to bury or anything, because of his injury status and what it's been the last couple of years. So that'll be interesting to watch. Will he play 10 games? I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't have signed him if they didn't expect him to play quite a few games, right? And I feel like they're going to try and split up the season, like maybe like give Wall 30 games, 35 games or something like that. You know, best case scenario if he doesn't get hurt, and kind of go from there. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I feel like he's going to get in some games this year. I do. And I don't know if it's the last 2 or 3 years, around November and December, like everyone's gotten hurt.
Yeah.
It's happened the last 3 years in a row. Like everyone's gotten hurt. So that they're going to need options.
I mean, that could happen. We're talking about all the depth on the goaltending front, but the forwards as well. Like that's why they sign guys like Alex Steves and they have all these young guys. Like if someone gets hurt, then someone else is obviously going to replace them. And it's good to have guys in the pipeline. Under on Murray playing 12 games. I'm going to go under.
I'll go under, but I feel like he's going to play. He's going to play
7 then. Over under 7.
We'll go I would say.
I would say
over. I would say over. Okay.
I just
hold us to this.
Yeah, we'll do a stream with predictions and over unders probably the week before the regular season starts. Yeah, and we can visit them back at the end because we'll probably have more of an idea, a more clear idea of what their actual roster and lineup.
Well, exactly. Like we'll know who's going to start on the third line, or maybe an idea at least. But that'll be fun. We'll do some fun stuff right before the season starts for sure. But I think Murray's going to see some time. The plan is for him to play. People are forgetting that, right? He was on a podcast not too long ago, Slinging the Biscuit, I believe it's called. Yeah. And that's the plan. He re-signs to play because he's feeling better.
Does Hilda be getting games?
If the Leafs have their way, not this year. He's going to play the entire year in the AHL and then he'll come up.
Because I think if they had Hilda be in the pipeline, we did see him for no games, but on the team last year for like 2 or 3 days. But those 2 or 3 days were long-lived. Ultimately, they got Matt Murray back to shelter Hildeby for him to not have to play. So what happens last year doesn't happen this year because they didn't want Hildeby to play a game. It was very obvious. They had a perfect chance on the road to start him against a bad team. They didn't, and they want to shelter him because he's going to be their prized possession going forward, and that's why they signed Murray back.
It was so obvious that they didn't want him to play. It was a back-to-back on the road.
Yep.
And I think who's the other goaltender? Right? Martin Jones. Thank you.
Back-to-back.
Played back-to-back. For no reason.
Sheldon Keefe said it's because Martin Jones was rolling,
which never happens. You could have the best goaltender in the league, and on a back-to-back, the backup is playing. So, and nothing against Hildeby. It's not because he's bad. It's that they don't want him to play in the NHL yet. They want him to develop properly. They want him to be the guy. They want him to take his time and develop, and put up really solid numbers, which he has been. But I think they want to give him another season in the AHL, just hone his craft. Get that much better. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Thank you so much, Nicolo. Again, we go live every single Wednesday around 6 Eastern, and it's going to stay that way. So if you want, hopefully you can get into your guys' routine here, especially as the season starts to pick up.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff is coming with the streams and, again, daily videos.
I do think, Shane, I don't disagree with you 100%, but I do think Murray would play before Hildeby. I do think that. That's the reason that they signed him, NHL experience. I feel like, honestly, they're really babying. Actually, I don't want to use that term. But, yeah, kind of babying Hildeby.
Sheltering.
Right? Just making sure he's sheltering. That's a better term. Yeah, not babying him. Sheltering him. Make sure he develops properly.
They babied him last year.
Correctly. Yeah, they did. And I that was fine at the time. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of disappointed because I want to watch him play, see what he has at the NHL level. But I get it. I totally get it. So And Jones was rolling. I feel like they won both of those games. I feel like they did win those games. So it was rolling at the time. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, NHL 24 would be very easy. I could do that right now.
Force trade. It'd
be easy to ask to add Ross Colton. Ross Colton's another guy, very interesting. I feel like the Leafs should call the Colorado Avalanche because they're in real bad. Yeah, probably have, some pieces for the Leafs.
Take it easy, Joshua. Hopefully we can see you next Wednesday or check out our video tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah, there's just a lot going on with the Leafs, and obviously we didn't talk as much about Nick Robertson as I fully expected, but I mean, it all kind of involves Nick Robertson to a degree. Look at the like 62. That's great. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Electric stream. I'm liking the Wednesdays. Everyone, it's a good time. It's a good time for now. And again, we'll adjust depending on how the regular season is going. Because I still would like to have a weekly chat about how that's not a, post game, whatever it ends up being, just a weekly chat about how the Leafs are doing. So we'll definitely be, streaming every single week at least. Shane, I promise you we're going to be consistent with the streams, and we're doing it.
Yeah, it's looking like Wednesdays right now. Everyone who's here right now, does Wednesdays work? I'm liking Wednesdays. This is nice.
Yeah.
So I think we'll probably stick to this. This will be good.
Collins next week.
I'll leave that to you.
Official Collins are next week.
Yes.
So if you guys want to have your voices heard next week on September 4th,
I believe, yes.
September 4th. You guys can have your voices heard and we can discuss it. Should be next week. We'll have a community post though before. I like Wednesdays. Yeah, I think Wednesdays are good. Are good.
Yeah.
Great talks. Thanks as always, JH. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a like on your way out. And any fun, Shane, I know. I said to Darius before the stream, I was like, I didn't get a chance to do it. Next week.
Shane,
we have it set up.
Apologize.
We have it set up.
Yes.
We have just the infrastructure. We had to do it in a way to where it's something we can sustain instead of we can't give our number out, all that stuff.
Yes.
And Vic, it's about Nick Robertson. Report came out that he wants out and that it's still going to happen. That paired with Elliot Friedman. We basically discussed how a big trade is going to be brewing. Nice break in the week. Let's go. Collins, I'll be Colin. Yeah, I know a lot of you guys were interested. The Collins are always good, and especially during the regular season after games.
Yeah. I'm very excited for that. And honestly, there's only so much you can get across in this chat box too. So for those of you watching us and want to get your, full opinions across and what you think of the team, Collins are going to be perfect and we can have full conversations. So it's going to be
Peter's number. We actually don't have to use any numbers. Zoom has a feature, so we'll be good with that. And
it'll be exciting for everyone.
And everyone, your voice will be heard on stream. So be respectful. We'll have some guidelines.
We'll have some guidelines, whether you want to follow them or not. I guess it's up to you, but
I'll have the mute button ready. So any final questions before we wrap up? And we will see you 1 week from today. There won't be a bonus stream on Sunday. I'll just throw that out there. There won't be. Yeah. I'm going to be traveling, so there won't be a bonus stream. But there still will be videos every day. Any final thoughts, Darius? Anything you want to get off your plate before we see him next week?
I'm wondering if Nick Robertson is a Maple Leaf the next time we stream. I am wondering about that. And not just Nick Robertson, David Camp. In having this stream and this conversation, you won't need to Zoom. It'll just be a call. And you can call from your phone. Yeah, it'll be easy. But it'll be connected right to us. So
that's why we're setting. It's taking a bit longer to set all up because I want to make sure once we do it, because it's going to be something that's every single week for the rest of the year. So we wanted to figure out the infrastructure,
solidify it, and make sure it's easy for you guys too. That was the biggest thing because there's a couple ideas we were looking at, and we want to make it easy for everyone. So that's the biggest thing. I just wonder if there's a big trade on the horizon the next couple of days because it certainly seems like something's coming. Right. And soon, because training camp's around the corner, something's got to give. So I wonder if that's, next couple of days, we'll see. I want to see a resolution on Hakanpää. I am so sick and tired of hearing about his condition because it's can he play or can he not play? Let's get to a conclusion here. So I'm sick of that. I would like a resolution on that. And we'll see. I'm really happy Max Domi is still a Leaf, and I'm really excited for this season because I feel like I went into last year thinking, okay, they finally won a round, but the team is weaker. And this year, I feel like they fixed a lot of problems that I've, had with the team for a long time. So I'm honestly really excited to just watch the regular season for once this year. So it's going to be fun.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you, KYT, Curious, everybody. Yeah, have a great night. Who's the top pairing on defensive game 1? Let's carry that question into next week. So everybody come back next Wednesday at around 6 Eastern with who you think is going to be on the top pairing of game 1 of the regular season on the defensive line. Hakan Power, Benoit, who makes the lineup? Definitely Benoit. What's up, Marcio? But that'll wrap it up.
Can we get hold on. Get some love for Benoit here before we leave.
Yeah.
Since Benoit
Brace your ears. Brace your ears.
Brace your ears.
Brace your ears, everybody.
We are on the Benoit train. We
train.
always have been since the start of last season.
There it is. Benoit train. Apologize for how loud the horn is. We're working on it. But that'll wrap it up. Gotta go pack for traveling. But we'll see you guys in tomorrow's video, and we'll see you 1 week from today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. It was a great one, and we'll see you guys very, very soon. And I have a weird feeling Nick Robertson is not going to be on the Leafs a week from today.
Something's going to happen.
If a Robertson trade happens, we'll have some sort of, maybe Darius will do a stream or something will happen.
We'll have something
up to date with it.